Yo, what are you doing right now? We are going to get real about men's issues, who Jesus is, and who we are as men in Christ. We're going to hear Trey, Jeremy, Michael, and Brad break it down. These guys call themselves the Cussin Christians. All right, guys, what is going on?
Michael, how do
about
you
as normal.
talk to us, Michael?
Love the wavy hair there, Trey.
It's an experiment.
Right?
All right. Everyone's asking me.
Has Donna run her fingers through it yet?
Easy.
Dude, a few weeks ago we were at church and we were sitting a couple rows behind this couple, and the guy puts his arm around his wife, like, okay, whatever, we're watching the sermon, and then he starts like stroking her hair, and then he starts running it through his fingers, and then he starts scratching the back of her head. I'm like, this is weird. This went on for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, that's too much, man. I'm trying to watch the sermon. And this dude's over here fondling his wife's hair, scratching her head.
It wasn't me, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Why do you do that?
Sometimes.
Dude,
really?
It's about the most distracting thing aside
While
from while you're trying to watch the sermon, and the guy's like your peripheral vision, you just see his hand moving around.
Oh,
and I'm
you
like,
weren't
dude,
on stage.
like in a room. No, this is sitting in the audience.
Go get a room.
Who was he there to worship? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'll rub Donna's shoulder sometimes while we're in church.
Just be mindful of the people behind
Okay,
you.
now that I'm gonna be paranoid.
Pretty soon people are like, how far is this going to go?
Yeah.
They're watching your hand.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah. Well,
Not appropriate in church.
Yeah, no kidding.
in December.
No.
Hey.
I know.
Well,
I wish
that's
I had
different.
his head of hair. man.
You're on the verge of a mullet. Right
I know.
there. You're getting real close.
Well, we're both experimenting, right? We're
we're
just trying to
experimenting.
figure it out. This is my last shot to grow my hair out.
Yeah.
I had it shaved short for like 30
Yeah, you
years.
did.
So we'll see where it goes.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Are you going to do a comb over?
You're talking to me on that.
I don't know.
You dirty dog. It was December. I came home and Amanda at Sports Clips, she did my fade, skin up. And I walked in and Donna, I guess she had been looking in some old pictures. She goes, your hair is like really thick and full. Would you just grow it out and just see what it looks like?
Yeah.
I went, all right. I hate it. But
Do you?
happy wife, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just don't like it that much because I'm playing with it all the time. It just feels uncomfortable. And I haven't had my hair this long in 30 years.
Yeah, me neither.
You know, so.
Good times.
All right, we're working on it. So, you know,
Nice, good for me.
we did the podcast on should we change the name now? We should do the podcast on should Brad and Trey cut their hair
we change
or
our hair?
not? So send us a note and we will check it out. But
How do you like what's going on with all the budget cutting, man? Have you guys ever heard of USAID before? I've never heard of the
I'm a
organization.
little behind.
have you heard
I
of
was,
USAID before?
Back to back.
Yes, I have.
I know you probably
Long
would.
history with them.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that in my life, and then I started whatever is being reported about the wastes that
Right.
are being discovered, and people are all up in arms.
And then all the stuff that's going on overseas that we're paying for.
Oh, yeah.
Was it like $50 million worth of condoms? Like
Yeah.
sent to.
And you know what? He's going to be speaking tomorrow. But Joseph Assad, had dinner with him last week after I got back from Europe. He said that's true. You know that those millions of dollars, condoms were part of that. There were other things in it as well, but condoms get you
Yeah.
news and gets news
The
attention.
condoms are justified by AIDS, right? They're trying to stop
I gotcha.
the spread of AIDS.
Well,
not
it
just-
is USAID.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
There you go.
Come on,
No,
that
it's-
is so.
I don't think the condoms stopped that USAID, though. That's a different USAID.
You know, we have MAGA, MAGA. We got MAHA.
Mega.
Make
Make Europe great again.
Yeah, there you go. MAHA. And then I think we ought to start MAFCA, which is Make America Follow the Constitution again.
Oh, you just started a new
Of course,
movement.
that didn't sound real good, did it?
No,
Muffin.
it sounded like the
Going
Lion
a totally
King.
different place.
No, that didn't.
It sounded like the Lion King.
Mufasa.
You go from being Kafka to Mafka, right? So
Muffaka. That didn't sound good. Well, it is the
Hey, look,
Christians, I guess.
We're going to introduce our amazing friend in a minute, but let's take politics right now. Let's put it in a package. Let's set it up on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, I feel something different's happening with just a faith feeling for our country right now. Do y'all feel it?
Yeah.
I mean, I sense it. I sense something stirring within our ministry. I sense something, feel something stirring in the church that we attend. Guys, we're going to have over 550, 60 almost 600 guys at this event tomorrow.
I remember.
Wow.
I love the fact that you were complaining about the women always, they throw something out there and get 600 women at it. We don't get anything. Blah, blah, blah. Now,
and I know Joseph Assad's going to be speaking. He's going to bring it. I saw the slideshow and saw his talking points. But I just feel something stirring in the air. Now, I don't want to give all that political credit.
Sure.
But the NFL players that are praising Jesus. I was on a Zoom call with an All-American college player that's about to go to the combine last night, giving praises to Jesus. What's happening on the college campuses, you can sense they're going, okay, enough's enough. You stay in your lane, but you're not going to try to give all that crap to me that goes against what this word says. And I don't know. Do y'all feel that too? Maybe not. I don't know. I do.
Yeah. So I think culturally, Christianity is the one thing you weren't allowed to talk about in the workplace and other places. I mean, there's this concept called secular negative freedom, which is being free from things, right? And so people wanted to be able to do anything as long as they didn't hurt somebody else, but there are limits. Right. You weren't allowed to talk about faith, particularly Christianity. You could talk about everybody else's faith, but not Christianity. And I think that veil is coming down.
Yeah.
And I think that it's starting to pivot, which is a really positive thing for the country, as long as it starts influencing policy.
That's the key. It transcends into the policy peeps and our lawmakers that we pray for all the time. They start using biblical truth to help set those policies. That's critical.
I've said for a long time, evil is growing. We know what the ending looks like. We know what the story is about. But I also believe, and I've said this in the past, that God's heart is that none should perish. So the Holy Spirit is going to do everything he can to bring as many as he can into the fold. And that's our job, is to go into all the world and preach the good news, the gospel.
Yeah.
So I see that as a spiritual thing happening. It is happening. It's going to happen. And God wins in the end. We know that. We see the end of the book, the end of the game. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
I think the bit about, go out and make disciples of all nations, I think everybody remembers that. The bit they forget is instructing them to obey all the commands I've given you. That's the part people forget about, right?
Yeah, that we get that lost in translation. Jesus gives us an easy way: obey my commandments, which are love the Lord, all your heart, mind, soul, and then love each other as I love you, and that covers it. And we just don't have that second part. Doesn't happen.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It doesn't happen at all. Your shirt. Speaking of the shirt next to me, we are having so much fun with our guests. Bill Toti is here with us. I fell in love with this man about a year ago. You came into our life, I think, and he is a captain, a naval captain, submariner. He sits under a tin can underneath the ocean for months.
Not be a tin can. Yeah, a little bit more robust than that.
Yeah, my son just got out of the Navy as a submariner, and he the submarine and everything. And I can't wait for you two to meet. But you have a cool story. Leaving the Navy, becoming CEO and for organizations, this track through life I think it's an amazing story. And then you decided to do this podcast that reaches for the Pacific War stories, that is reaching millions and millions. And I've wanted to have you on for a while. So Bill Toti, thank you for joining us, bro.
Well, thanks for having me.
And he's even now, you've only been a Christian for a little while.
Year and a half, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Good for you.
Talk to me. I'm fascinated and have heard, but I want everyone else to kind of hear where you're coming from, bro.
Oh, how far back do you want me to go, Trey?
Well, we try to keep these where guys can listen to this whole podcast on their drive to work. So, just go
where your heart
where your heart goes. Right. That's what we do with everything we do. So
sure. Yeah, so I was raised Catholic in a steel town in Ohio, and I wanted to get out of there as quickly as I could. I was an altar boy, and being an altar boy hanging around the priest, right? Nothing inappropriate happened, but you do. learned real quickly that he was not a good man. So he didn't believe any of these things he was preaching. I'll say it that way. It was like a job for him. In fact, there might have been some mafia association, a lot of Italian.
And this is your priest?
I'm Italian. This is the priest, yeah.
Okay.
So I walked away from the faith at age 13 and really never looked back. I became really interested in science, physics, and believed what we'll call scientism, which is a scientific religion, right? So science can explain everything. I was, high school, I wanted to be an astronaut. All my goals were towards that objective and decided, in fact.
Did you go to space camp?
I did not. There was no space camp back in those days. We're talking about the late 60s, early 70s when I was in late 70s, early 70s, I was in high school. But, when I was in kindergarten, John Glenn flew, and that planted the seed about being an astronaut in me. My kindergarten teacher had us write letters to John Glenn. Fast forward to my senior year in high school, John Glenn's running for Senate in Ohio. And I said, I want to be an astronaut just like you, Mr. Glenn. So I volunteered, 16 years old. I'm volunteering on his campaign, which means I put signs in yards. But when he comes to town, I get to meet him. And at that point, I'd already applied I knew you needed to be a military pilot to be an astronaut. I already applied to the Air Force Academy because I stupidly presumed that every military pilot was in the Air Force. And I was dumb enough to say those words when I got to meet John Glenn. And so,
No.
Yeah. So, lesson to all of you watching here is be careful what you say to a naive 16-year-old, because John Glenn just jerked my chain about that, right? Air Force, don't you know I was a Marine? Wow. If you want to go to an academy, you got to go to the Naval Academy. I do. He's joking, right? Not realizing what would happen based on this innocuous comment that he thought he was making. I said, okay. So I decided not to go to the Air Force Academy. I actually turned down the appointment. Wow. And decided to apply to the Naval Academy. Problem is, it was too late. So I enlisted as a just plain old enlisted man in the Navy, saying, I'll show them how serious I am about this. And so I go to boot camp and I'm telling people, I'm not going to be in the Navy very long because I'm going to go to the Naval Academy. They laughed and laughed. Bottom line is sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. The next year I got into the Naval Academy. Let's say, to fast forward 30 years later, I get to meet John Glenn. Senator John Glenn, and I tell him this story. He was horrified that I actually did what he said I should do.
That's too cool.
Don't you have to be appointed by somebody, like a senator?
Yeah, I had to be appointed by my congressman. It was Charles Carney. It was another guy. That's another story entirely. But, while I was enlisted, one of the formative things is once I get the appointment to the academy, my chief petty officer, said, okay, I had 3 months to wait, cool my jets before I went to the academy. For those 3 months, he made me clean toilets because he said, I never want you to forget what it's like to be an enlisted man. So I was cleaning toilets for 3 months before I went to the academy. But I had no interest in religion. Physics was it. And that really lasted through most of my adult life until age 66. It's kind of bizarre about that.
Wow.
So most people don't come to the Lord later in life. Yeah, that really doesn't happen that often.
People keep telling me that, and I'm not quite sure what happened to me either.
Well, was there a moment? Was there a trigger? Was there,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was a 2x4 to the head. I tell the story that...
So God literally hit you in the face.
Yeah, my entire Navy career, I kept getting promoted. Everything was great. 7 deployments in the Navy, right? So it wasn't like I had cushy duty. Family was good, as far as I could tell. Everything was fine. I get out of the Navy because I really had no interest I had 2 kids in college. I'm a served commander. I'd served as Commodore of a squadron of 6 submarines in Pearl Harbor, and I'm still living paycheck to paycheck because I got 2 kids in college. And so I say, look, I have no desire to be an admiral. If I retire tomorrow, my pay doubles in one day. Right. So I get out, go into industry, keep getting promoted. As Trey said, I started, but I won't name all the companies, but I'm vice president of 2 companies, including Hewlett-Packard, president of 2 companies, including L3's Navy business, and then CEO of Spartan. I keep getting promoted. life is wonderful. I need nothing, nothing. I have no desires. Nobody's sick. Money is fine. Everybody's healthy. But we moved down here when I retired, and my wife says, we ought to go to church to find a worship band that our son can play in. And we go to church first day, and we can back up and tell why he's playing in worship bands separately. But first day, first church, service hasn't even started, and God hits me upside the head with a 2x4, and something happens, and I still can't. I can describe it, but I can't explain it.
Where'd the 2x4 come from? Like the ceiling? I mean, like what? Like
what was there something? This happened when you walked into the church.
We were standing in the pews. They weren't pews; they were like chairs, and we were standing up because the worship music was beginning, and the stream of consciousness started, and it flashed back. Now, I knew quite a bit about the Bible, even though I had no interest in Christianity. I liked the stories. I believed they were myths that were created to push an agenda. That's what I believed. I was always quasi-academic. I would study biblical history and things like that, and I knew the stories. But the first image that came to mind was from 1 Corinthians 15 with the 500. 500 people that saw Christ after he was resurrected. Because one of the intellectual stumbling blocks I'd always had with Christianity was, how could these 12 dudes spread Christianity to 20 cities in 30 years? It just you can't do it. I mean, you're walking. Even if you're taking a donkey, that's slower than walking. Yeah. So it just did not make intellectual sense. That day in that church, as I'm standing up, I see 500, not, and of course, in Pentecost it becomes 3,000 people going back to their towns, and suddenly, the light
switch went off in your brain.
Exactly.
Wow,
this does make sense. So that's the intellectual bit, but there was also a physical bit where I just felt a rush of something. I was losing my balance. I had to grab the chair in front of me to keep from falling down. I whispered to my wife, Karen, she was there. Something's happening to me. I thought I was having a stroke.
No way.
Yeah. So it was like, I'm going to fall down. I think I got to sit down. And is this what a stroke feels like? It doesn't hurt. It kind of feels good. And it was like a rush. But the thing is, we sat through the entire service. I don't remember a thing the preacher said, because I was just inside my head this time. When we left, I had this feeling of euphoria that began with that rush, with that wave. We left. That feeling of joy did not leave me for 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
4 or 5 months of this. And so, being the guy that I am, I started reading, right? And so I went home, we had a Bible, I opened the Bible, random page, 2 Timothy 4:9. Make every effort to come to me soon, because Demas has abandoned me since he loves this present world. Titus has gone to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me, is the bottom line.
Is that really in there? Demas?
Demas, yeah, Demas. Demas has abandoned me. He's gone to Thessalonica, okay, because he loves this present world. Crescens has gone to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Only Luke is with me. And I'm thinking, if you're going to write a mythology, because you're trying to create a religion out of whole cloth, you don't put stuff like that in there.
No.
You write grand characters who are, everything happens the right way and nothing bad happens and everybody falls in line. And you don't say, only Luke is with me. This is one of the main characters in the New Testament.
Right.
And everybody's abandoned him but Luke, and he's asking Timothy, please come and bring my coat because I'm cold.
The other thing I like is you don't use women either. And that's who were at the
first people
tomb.
saw the tomb, right? Because they can't testify. Right.
That's right.
So then I said, holy cow, this stuff is true. And so I started reading. I started buying theology books. Actual count, I've got them in a spreadsheet. I got 197.
Of course you do.
That's so not me. I would never do that.
Well, I've only read 96 of the 197.
Okay, all right. That's me. I've only read half of the books that I bought.
But I got through systematic theology, Wayne Grudem's textbook. I got through the apologetics textbook, and so this became my life. Since I was retired, I had time to do this. This became my life. At first it was 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I would do this. Sit down.
Just obsessed.
I read the Bible cover to cover in 2 different translations. I've got 11 translations now. I just went through. I would put myself through, online seminary.
Did this revelation happen here in Florida since you've been
It
here?
did. Yeah.
So and this is only a couple years ago.
A year and a half.
Year and a half ago.
September 17th, 2023.
Wow.
Is when this happened.
Was that the first time you'd been in church since you left the faith when you were 13?
No. So we're going to have to roll back the clock. So our son, Karen and I's son, was a drummer. And he was a touring drummer for 4 years. And so in 2013-ish, while he was a touring drummer, he did not make enough money to live on. So I'd have to send him money every month. Mm-hmm. After 4 years of this, we said, look, dude, needs to be an exit strategy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You need to come home. If you come home, I'll pay for you to finish college because he dropped out of college to do this. But we're not going to keep doing this. So he did. He reluctantly came home, finished college. But while he was home, I knew he loved playing the drums. And it's really tough to do that while you're in college. But there was a church, it was a pretty big church. We were living in Leesburg, Virginia. And this is during my civilian industry career. And, and this church, he could play in front of 4,000 people on Christmas. So I said,
sounds like
better than nothing.
Let's go to church.
That's better that's better than going to the bar and playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there wasn't a real live music bar scene in Leesburg, Virginia. So
Was your family believers at that time?
none of us were believers.
But you picked a church to go. Wow.
Yeah, because it was the biggest gig he could get.
gig,
Right?
yeah.
No, my wife.
That's cool.
My wife has always been a believer. I will say that. I wasn't. I was.
Sure.
I would say I was an agnostic, but I didn't care enough to be an agnostic. I would call myself an apatheist. Right. I was apathetic about the entire thing. So he says, and he meets a guy who's actually playing in that worship band. And so he likes the guy, he's a guitar player, and says, maybe this is not a bad idea. So he starts playing, and within a month or two, he's their lead drummer. So he's playing the main stage on Sunday mornings, and so I like to hear him play. I haven't heard him play in a few years. Let's go see him play. Yeah. So we start going to the church. Every time he's playing, we go. And the pastor was a non-denominational church. I'd never been in a non-denominational. Heck, last time I went to church, it was Catholic church when I was 13. And the pastor's a really good teacher. He's one of these guys, they're cavalry style, which he goes through the Bible from cover to cover in a given week. And I'm listening to stories. I'm picking up on him. He's kind of hip, when he did Samson and Delilah, he would stand up there and sing, "Hey there, Delilah." Right? It's like, well, they would never do this in Catholic church, right? Nice. And so I retained some of the stories. Mm-hmm. Didn't believe any of it, but I was happy he was doing it because I thought it was good for him, and basically believed that Christianity was a positive force in nature, right? But other than that, I wasn't really interested.
I can't relate to that at all. I grew up going to church every Sunday and Sunday school, and it didn't absorb during those times. But at least the seeds were being planted, right?
Yeah, you were in your 50s, which is what I was.
That's just, and this has only been a year and a half, and now. Man, you're leading a military group at our church. You're part of our Impact Warriors group once a month in Brevard County on US 1. And it's metamorphosized. You're doing this amazing podcast on the Pacific War. Is your head ever just spinning too much, or your passion is off the charts?
Off the charts, and I don't get tired of it at all. It's like I'm still doing 6 to 8 hours, not the 10 to 12 I was doing then.
Yeah.
I study every day.
Yeah.
Do the morning routine. I'll do, I'm doing something called Lectio Divina, which is a process to pray the Bible, right? So I'll start with that, and then, I'll do my daily Bible reading. I'm doing a Tim Keller Psalm commentary every morning. Great. So I'll do a psalm every day, and then I'm jumping into Charles Spurgeon. So I'm going way back, right? Charles Spurgeon, one of the best preachers, exegete in history. So I'm reading a Charles Spurgeon, sermon every day, and I'm listening when I'm driving to a Tim Keller sermon every day, and I just don't get enough of it.
You're catching up for lost time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely right. And my great, I would tear up early on in this process because I would say, I was 66 when I got saved. I'm 68 now, right? I would say I lost 66 years.
No.
And my sister, who was a Christian from way back, I've been praying for you all these years, would say, no, God had a plan.
Yeah.
You could not do what you're doing right now if you hadn't gone through all the things you went through in your life.
Right. And the thing I love about it, Bill, is that it's not a have to, because you have a lot of joy. It's a want to, and the joy is coming out in the things that you're saying, the things that you're doing. And growing up Catholic, I remember it was a have to. And I have to do this. I have
obligations.
Yes, and as a believer, it's I want to.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch to unpack in that. I needed nothing. The moment I was saved, that day I was saved, I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't need anything. There was no addictions. There was no. I've got a storybook marriage. There was. We've been married 40. It's going to be 42 years next month. Everybody was healthy. I needed nothing.
Right.
So it wasn't Christianity is a move of desperation for me. It was
right.
Holy cow, this is true. What have I been doing all these years? And the reason I'm doing the military group and things like that, Trey, is, as I'm going through this process from September 2023, February 2024, I really dived deep into James and said, I'm becoming a monk. I'm sitting here on this bench studying I'm supposed to be doing something with all of this.
Yeah.
I got to get out there in the world. And
well, it's such an inspiration. I know since you started the military group, of course, you've got an audience already because of your podcast. There's 75,000 veterans in our county where we live. Mm-hmm. Our brother Garen Cohn with the AVET project, he gives me that stat with, especially the ones that are struggling, trying to get benefits pushed through, or they just don't even know how to even begin to access the benefits that that they've earned through defending our country. And there's a huge need for that. I know past few months from yours and our conversation, and let me back up a little bit, our ministry Impact, you're wired for us because we try to, come to the man where he is, and it might be in the most desperate spot. And we had a situation this week where we had a man in a desperate spot, and we're circling up around him right now. You're going through that as well because veteran suicide is off the charts.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that and the importance of that calling to you and how it's kind of woken you up in the middle of the night with a phone call here and there and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, 22 a day. Veterans kill themselves, Trey. And so... Whoa. Pardon?
What was that again?
22 a day. 22 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
almost one every hour.
Yeah. I'm. So when I decided, when I woke up reading James, right, I decided there was something I needed to do, and it came to me that the veteran community, because those 7 deployments I did, the families, submarines, it was all men, and so the wives at home were basically on their own. So a lot of these families would struggle, And so I thought, with the large veteran population in Brevard County, there's something maybe I could do with unique insight and just bringing both Christianity and the veteran viewpoint together. So I had been moved to do something with veterans and start a military group, active duty military, and veterans group. So what I didn't say is that the church that we go to now, Church at Viera, wasn't the church where that epiphany event, the salvation event happened to me. But I went to them and I said, hey, look, I feel moved to really start doing something for the veteran community in Brevard County. And they said, how long have you been saved? No.
Wow.
You had to have some qualifications at some stops. You
got to go to Bible school.
All you got to do is talk to Trey.
Exactly.
2 months in, he'll throw you into a group.
Yeah, that's what I did with him.
Well, they said, you're still eating Christian milk, right? And I didn't even know I didn't even understand the reference when they said that, right? You're not ready for meat yet. No, talk to us in a year or two.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah, so that's even better. And so we went to another church and got the same thing as, no. We've got no interest in that. Third church we went to was too small. I said, this isn't going to work.
You sound like the Three Bears over here.
Yeah, the fourth church was Church at Viera. It wasn't the Three Bears, but fourth church was Church at Viera. And when I first proposed it, it was an immediate. Well, the first reaction was, "Oh, we have a men's group," and I said, "No." First of all, 20% of active duty are female.
Right.
Point one. Point two, the families are involved. They're involved in deployments. They're hurt by it. They have to deal with the PTSD when the guys and gals come back. The family. This has to be a co-ed group. And then, yes, let's do it. So, hallelujah, they agreed. Now, as far as the approach goes, we've been really, from my point of view, what I thought I'd be doing would be helping people come to Christ. That's what I thought I'd be doing. The issue you're talking about with the crises, not Christ, but the crises did not occur to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how prevalent the critical existential issues are in our veteran community here. Right. And so, within the first month, we ended up dealing with the first attempted suicide in the group. And since then, we've had to deal with another one. Mm-hmm. And so we actually just this week created a hotline for the community, for the veteran community. I was driven by the Holy Spirit to do this, but what I thought it would be turned out to be something completely different from what it's become.
Amen.
And
How many years were you in corporate America after you left the Navy?
I did 26 years on active duty and then 16 in industry. Yeah.
So, and that 16, you're the CEO and high-ranking officer in some heavy-hitting companies, man. Yeah. And obviously, you're not getting any Christ-filled inspiration in those terms for the most part. I'm not going to disqualify it, but you had a lot of things in your brain, from a military, systematic, to corporate America. Hitting sales numbers, hitting projections, satisfying stockholders, and all of those things, to total surrender.
Yes. During my corporate experience, Trey, I always tried to be good to my employees. I was, in fact, when I took over as CEO, the first thing I did was give everybody a pay raise because we were underpaying.
Right.
So it wasn't like I was a hedonistic money grabbing.
No.
I will remember one experience just sticks so squarely in my brain. While I was CEO, within a month or so, it was a female employee, African-American female employee, came up to me and she said, I do this to make money, but my real passion is I'm a minister. Oh. And she said, and I've been praying for you to come here. I've been praying for you to come here. And you are the answer to our prayers. And her name was MJ. And I said, MJ, I'm honored that you think that, but God did not send me here. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Right. And so,
but a seed was planted.
A seed was planted
by her.
Exactly.
To you.
In fact, I've been trying to get in touch with her ever since this happened to me, and I haven't succeeded with that. But that stuck with me. The other thing I try to do is hire veterans. And so from my earliest time, I was always bringing in as many veterans as I can. One of the things that really irritated me was I was no better at keeping my veteran employees employed than any one of my counterparts who was not a veteran themselves. So I thought I would have some special connection with them or some special power. Veterans would come in, and whereas other companies retain 50% or less of their veterans after 2 years, real statistic, by the way, within 2 years, most veterans who go into private industry will quit.
Wow.
I thought maybe I would retain 80 or 90%. Turns out I didn't. And so when I retired from my civilian job, I decided I was going to write a book. The book is right there, called From CO to CEO, Practical Guide for Transitioning from Military Industry Leadership. And I would do pro bono skills training for veterans. Because what I learned over the course of my corporate career is the military actually sets them up to fail. And they lie to them, telling them all these skills they developed in the military would help them succeed. When in fact, it does exactly the opposite.
That's the whole campaign you see on television ads and everything else.
And
I never thought about that.
It's untrue. That's why they're failing, because they don't unlearn the skills they learned in the military. That's what that book is all about.
So I mean, there's people that are like CEO level in the military that are living on the streets here in Brevard right now.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad.
Well, yeah, what I learned was there was a certain category of people that I could train the skills. I could help them unlearn what they learned in the military and learn what they need to succeed in industry. But there was this other contingent, about, I would say 30 to 40%, that what I tried to teach them would not stick. It would just...
Were they trapped in this... I am going to execute fully what I'm ordered to do, so that way they don't have a strategic mindset to get things done? What is that?
Those guys I could generally teach.
Okay.
Now, there was a category of people who either when they joined the military, they did not have an identity.
Right.
You know, the military became their gang and gave them an identity. Or they had an identity when they joined the military, but they lost it while they were in the military. And when they left the military, they lost their identity.
Right.
So they didn't know who they were. I called this the missing middle. Okay, the missing middle. There was something before the military. They're trying to be something after the military, but there's a part of them that's missing. And I realized I could not teach people who had the middle was missing, right? And so, but for me, it was all secular. It was all, I was not saved yet. And I didn't know, in fact, that people were telling me, you need to write another book, because that book I didn't deal. When I wrote that book, I didn't understand this problem because I hadn't started training people yet.
Gotcha.
I figured out the problem after I wrote the book. And people said, well, you need to write another book, and you have the title for it, The Missing Middle. And I said, I'm not writing another book. Writing books are really expensive, right? So you have to put a lot of your own money into writing books these days. And so when I became a Christian, the light bulb came on, what it was that they were missing. And this is what motivated me to say, I need to help the military and veteran community.
Sure.
Because now I know what they're missing. I understand. And so that's how it all connected there. So career number 2 was industry. Career number 3 was the veteran counseling thing. Career number 4 is this ministry I'm doing now, and the best job I ever had.
Amen.
Let me ask you, going back, you left at 13. Where did your morality come from? Where did you still have that small voice inside of you that said, that was drawing you in any way? Did you see it? Because I did, and I know I did. And I was still having that still small voice tell me, did you have that? Did you have anything?
I think so, yeah. I think, good being raised well and things like that.
Okay.
I believe that secular people can be good people.
Yeah.
What they're missing is the understanding that there's an objective truth. They believe that all truth is subjective. My truth, if it conflicts with your truth, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way. That doesn't work in the actual world. That worldview is fatally flawed. And Christianity provides the correct worldview. That's where they fall. It's not that they can't be moral. They often can be. And I think I had that kind of morality.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, tell us about the unauthorized History of the Pacific War podcast. What was the inspiration to do that? And that was before your salvation moment.
It was, yeah.
So this podcast, you've got 9.5, 10 million downloads or listens. You're all over the world. You're striking a chord with veterans. It's opening up the doors for you to have discipleship conversations with people that you've been having all over the world. Talk to me, man, because that's fascinating to me.
Sure. Well, my submarine command was USS Indianapolis, named after the World War II cruiser Indianapolis. So I got really close to those guys. I was actually involved in that was the ship from the movie Jaws.
When Quint talked about it, that shark's black eyes roll over white.
Yeah. Black eyes like a doll's eyes.
Like a doll's eyes.
By the way, he wrote that speech, the actor Robert Shaw, and I got to meet his son. It's a great guy. Anyway, I was CO of the submarine named after the cruiser, and the cruiser survivors kind of lassoed me into helping them exonerate their captain, who was court-martialed in 1945 for having a ship sunk. So in 2001, we succeeded in getting their captain exonerated. So
really?
I got tight. That's a whole nother episode.
Well, you'll come back next week. We'll see if we can do that.
I got roped into this and got consumed and really guilted into doing it. I got to admit it. I didn't go into this because I believed I couldn't help, and it turns out we were able to get it done. Anyway, so that caused me to be in 3 documentaries about the World War II cruiser, either PBS, History Channel, things like that. So I've been in 3 documentaries about the World War II cruiser. Break. I was in the Pentagon on 9/11, right? So I went through that. And
you were actually in the physical building on 9/11?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I lived, my friends died, and that's another story. But because I was and there's video of me running around outside the Pentagon trying to pull people out. ABC News footage of that. I've been in all 3 documentaries about 9/11 the Pentagon because they can identify me. So that's that. So because I was in those documentaries, Fox decided to do a series called The Lost Ships of World War II. And they knew me from the documentaries. So I was asked to be on the series, and I agreed. So I'm doing the series for Fox, and it got canceled after 8 episodes, but you could still watch it on Fox Nation. I'm not a historian, I'm a Navy guy. The actual historian who's on the show with me, by the name of Seth Perrin, was the former chief historian of the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, the big one. So he and I just hit it off. We just became great friends while doing this Fox show. And after the Fox show was canceled, we said, it's really sad. There's so many more stories we could tell about World War II, about these guys. That's our interest, is the guys. I do the high-level strategic stuff. But yeah, he did over 4,000 oral histories while he was at the museum of World War II veterans. And he has all these stories. And we said, well, how can we keep doing this?
There we go.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do a podcast? Podcasts seem to be hot these days.
Everybody's going to get a gazillion followers overnight.
Yeah. And we said, we'll do it for a few months. Nobody will watch, but at least we will have tried. So that was the idea. So in 2022, it's been, maybe August 2022, we recorded our first episode. And we started with Pearl Harbor. We said, we're going to go through the war, and when people stop watching, we'll quit. Or when we get to the end of the war, we'll quit. We pay nothing to do it. We advertise not one bit. Somehow it received a global audience. Sometimes it's kept growing and growing, and it's all word of mouth. So as we're sitting here today is February 21st, 2025. We're about to cross 10 million YouTube views and about 2 to 3 million audio downloads.
Right.
And we got our number 1 market is Chicago. Our number 2 market is Sydney, Australia. We've got viewers all over, a bunch of thousands of viewers in London. It's a global audience, which is really cool. Of course, I wasn't a Christian yet when I started all this. And And I've only just hinted at my faith since I've become a Christian. And now people are coming out of the woodwork. I mean, I get people down at Hillsong in Sydney, and people that are viewers of the podcast that will email me. The way the worlds have come together,
Right.
It can only be explained by God's hand.
How is your partner in crime in this podcast? Is he a believer?
He's a Catholic, and
Go get him,
you're
Bill.
called the Cussin Christians. The irony here is I didn't cuss even when I was in the Navy. Well, he does.
All right.
So between the two of us, hey Seth, he does, and so he's a
Seth's
Catholic.
a man.
His mom is a really faithful Catholic, and so
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. I was in Ireland a few years back, and we were talking to a nun, and something came up about in Ireland the F word is used in every sentence, and it's pronounced a little different.
Well,
Time to move to Ireland.
And she says, "Oh, that's part of our language." And sometimes when I get mad during the day, I just started cracking up. Tell us about, first off, Monday nights at 6:30, especially for the people that are living here in our county, the veterans. Tell us about that.
Yeah, every Monday night at Church at Vieira, we're up in the big room on the second floor, room 200, because we've grown to the point where we need it. And it's going to be, it's a community of Christ of active duty. We've got young active duty guys all the way to Vietnam veterans. And so, at one point I even offered should we kind of segregate by age group? They didn't want to do it.
No, I bet not.
They love staying together, and I'm so happy about that. And spouses, right? So we've got female veterans, male veterans. We got spouses. We come together and it's community. Mm-hmm. It's connection. Mm-hmm. It's developing relationships. Mm-hmm. It's helping each other, and it's growing in the Word.
Fantastic.
All those things.
I've been moved so much by this veteran suicide thing and our ministry. That's kind of in our wheelhouse as far as helping lift a brother or sister up. Mm-hmm. And we created Impact Warriors, and we meet. Right now, we're meeting once a month. It's the third Tuesday of every month at the Grills Riverside, the Freedom Boat Club. We had our meeting this week, and there was 8 or 9 guys there, but it was deep. We were talking about getting off the X, like Joseph's going to be talking about tomorrow, and how we take steps and leaps of faith. And we have a brother in there that's really struggling with some marriage issues, and he just feels stuck. And I think he had some good words of encouragement and wisdom. Some of the things, I think he was sitting next to you, that you brought up, I think were really striking home with him. And we just love what your efforts are and what you're doing, what you're bringing to our community. Your newfound faith is inspiring for anyone that's listening. If you just not connecting the dots, listen to this guy's, listen to Bill's story because it is inspiring. It's revelationary, not revolutionary, but revelationary. And we're just blessed that you're joining us today. Yeah. I know this is going to be the first time of several, because you've mentioned about 4 things that I want to dive deeper into, and we can
love to do some apologetics with you guys, because the bottom line here, folks, is this stuff is true.
Yeah, and it not only is it true, and this is where I've been on this tangent lately. Mm-hmm. It's big and it's powerful.
It is powerful,
and it's the most powerful thing in the history of the world that we get to walk out.
Jeremy has to apologize all the time, so. Doing an apologetics would work.
I'm pretty good at that
You're
one.
pretty good at apologizing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old has passed away and the new has come. That is true.
Just contact information for you. First off, the podcast, is there, how do we access it?
YouTube, if you start typing The Unauthorized, the name of the podcast is The Unauthorized History of the Pacific War. But if you start typing The Unauthorized, it's the first thing that comes up. We're the largest World War II Pacific-related podcast in the world.
Okay.
So it comes up first.
Gotcha.
We'll put a link to it in the description on this.
Brad will cover that. And
Right before you click that link, hit the little like button for us so we can maybe start coming up in the ranks a little bit.
Hit the like, hit the subscribe button for us as well. What you're looking at.
We're also audio on Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll find that. As far as for the Brevard County area people, Central Florida, every Monday night, 6:30 at the Church at Vieira, up in room 200. When you walk through the doors, you'll see the sign guiding you. And if you have a question about that, send it through the Impact email, and I'll get it straight to Bill so he can reach out and talk to you. And our website, of course, is impactministries.org, mpactministries.org. It's been awesome, Bill, to have you here. We did make our next big announcement. Our brother Brad put together this amazing artwork. Our 6th Grace Experience will be happening May 31st at the King Center in Melbourne, Florida. And we're going to be teaming up with this guy, 5-time Grammy-nominated, one of the most amazing singer-songwriters out of Nashville for Christian music. If you're listening to one of the local Christian radio stations right now, chances are you're listening to a Matthew West song. If you look at some of these songs that your favorite artists sing, if you look at who wrote them, he's usually in the mix. So it's going to be a night of grace, a night of worship, and we're hoping people will just walk away changed that night on May 31st. Brad did his beautiful artwork, and so be looking on social media through Instagram, Facebook. Please like us, follow us, share us, give us comments about the podcast, the events we're doing. We have the men's breakfast tomorrow, which this will be on air 2 days after. Oh, and before we cut out, you were giving shout outs. I got to give a shout out to my brother Hayden, who is living in Denton, Texas. I quoted Jaws today, bro, one of your favorite all-time movies. So I quoted it. So I just want to give you a shout out, brother Hayden in Denton. So glad to have you here, Bill.
I'm so glad to be here, and I sit on stacks of books here because I'm next to my brother Jeremy. You put me next to the big guy.
I would never have fit in a submarine, so.
Well, our prayers are for everyone, all the guys and girls listening to us. Please share us with everyone you know. Jeremy, praying for you. You're coming off some work challenges that we're really excited that you're coming out, so we've been praying for you on that. Brad, as always, you're my brother from another mother, and Michael,
Dude, I got it.
I don't like you very much.
I know, don't say it.
All right.
There's not enough time in the day to pray for you.
So we're going to turn a page, finish this chapter. Until then, next time, I'm Trey.
I'm Michael.
I'm Brad.
I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Bill.
And we are the
Cussin
Christians.
Muffaka.
A doll's eyes roll over white.
Make America follow the Constitution.
Yeah.
Make America fall.
Muffaka.
Hey, real quick, Bill, you want to do a 30-second?